Hey girlfriend, this is Jan James. Welcome to the Hope After Breast Cancer podcast, where women who have endured breast cancer learn to have fulfillment over frustration, clarity over confusion, and faith over fear. We tackle the issues that many of our sisters face after a breast cancer diagnosis, from brain fog to fear of recurrence, from menopause to sex after breast cancer. This is the place to learn how to have hope after breast cancer. So strap yourself in. Welcome to the Hope After Breast Cancer podcast. Hi, everybody. Jan and Lyndsey, Dr. Lyndsey. Hi. So we were just talking about, for the podcast audience, we were live last week or the other day with Lisa Nicholson, and I pushed the wrong button after the live was over, and Lisa and I started to talk about our personal sex lives, and I had forgotten to disconnect from the Sex After Breast Cancer group. So one of the girls was so kind and said, "Hey, Jan, you guys are still on live in the group." I'm like, "Oh, I'm new to this technology." So anyway, I'm pretty transparent about it all. So, I don't worry about that. But for Lisa's sake, I went in and edited the video so that she didn't need to let it all hang out as well. So that's okay. So anyway, be wary about what you talk about, Lyndsey, today.
Lesson learned.
Don't give any personal data out if you don't want it to know. No, it's okay. I think when you have those kinds of faux pas, you really learn a lesson, right? You go, "Oh, well, I'm not doing that again. I figured out how that worked." So anyway.
You'll never forget again, I don't think.
No, it's true. Well, for our podcast audience, this is Jan James inside the Sex After Breast Cancer group with OBGYN Dr. Lyndsey Harper, who is one of our incredible contributing experts. And you're in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, Lyndsey?
Yes. Yep. I'm in Dallas, actually.
Excellent. Well, that's awesome. And thank you for being with us today so that you can do a little Q&A with us and answer some questions from inside our group. We've got over 10,000 women in the group now, which is amazing. And we are really starting to see some momentum with success stories. So that's doing awesome podcasts with success stories too, which is really fun. And if you are a woman that's had success in our Sex After Breast Cancer group and would like to do a podcast, do contact me, and you don't have to use your real name. I'm big on pseudonyms if you want to protect the innocent. So no problem.
Yes, that's great.
So that's okay. So Lyndsey, could you tell everybody about Rosy Wellness? I would love for you to give them a little background on you.
Yeah, thank you. So as Jan mentioned, I'm an OBGYN. That's my clinical training. And I was in private practice here in Dallas for about 8 years before I started to kind of put the puzzle pieces together that a lot of my patients were having sexual problems, but I did not know how to help them. And so I started thinking, man, maybe this is just my patient population, or maybe it is my deficit that I didn't learn this stuff in medical school or in residency. But I went on to get a lot of extra training from ISWISH, which is where I met Rachel Rubin, who is also in this group, and lots of other amazing sexual medicine people.
So ISWISH is the International Society for the Study of Women's Sexual Health, which
amazing.
I know
you got
all
it
about
down
as well. Yeah. How was that?
Yeah,
that's pretty good.
I know there's not many people who can rattle it off like that, Jan. So I'm pretty impressed. You're an insider now for sure.
Yeah, right.
And I'm going to get to see Jan there in November in like a month. So that's really exciting.
They're having a conference that's about a half an hour from my house. Can you believe
Love that? I wish it were a half an hour from my house, but I'll fly to come see you. Yeah.
I'm going to sleep at home during the conference, which is really fun. But 3 of our experts, Dr. Lyndsey, Dr. Rachel Rubin, and Andrea Martin are all going to be there. So look out. It's going to be fun. We're going to tear it up. It's going to be great to see each other in person, which will be great. So yeah.
It will be great for sure. So anyway, I joined ISWISH and I learned that 43% of women have a sexual health problem or concern, but yet we as the medical community are doing very little to address these issues, as so many women in your group know and we read about every day. And so, it became really my mission to try to connect women with evidence-based resources, which is super important to me because I feel like there's a lot available out there that doesn't have any evidence for, a lot of the supplements, a lot of like the vaginal steams and the yoni eggs and all of this stuff. And it's really important to me that women get connected with things that we know, particularly obviously in the cancer community, the risks and the benefits too. And that way we can make those really educated decisions, and get the help that we all need and deserve. So anyway, along that mission, I decided to start a company. The name of the company is called Rosy. And Rosy is an app that women can download, that has, resources. So a ton of education. We have a library of erotica, we have community, and we have coaching that women can access, and it's all personalized to their journey. So, we got involved with the breast cancer community very quickly after we launched, and it wasn't something we anticipated, which will show you my initial sort of ignorance, but we had tons of breast cancer women on the platform saying, oh my gosh, this is the first time anyone's ever talked to, this is before your group, Jan.
Right.
Let me tell you, no one's ever talked to me about breast cancer and sex. Like, I've been struggling for decades and no one's addressed it. So we know that there's such a huge community in need, right? And that our oncologists have to do better, that our that our surgeons have to do better when it comes to talking to patients about sexual health. And we created an entire sort of course on the platform for women who have had or do have breast cancer. We recorded that with an oncologist who specializes in survivorship. Her name is Shelby Turstrip. I don't know if you're aware of her, but she would be good for me to connect you with. And then also her clinical nurse psychologist. So we really talk about it from the medical aspect, from the mental health aspect, how to talk to your team, how to talk to your partner, how, the resources that are available. And I know y'all do a lot of this in your group as well. So anyway, something that's near and dear to my heart, just like I know it is yours, and super thankful, to be here with you and to chat.
No, that's awesome. And so I'm excited that we're going to be able to answer some questions from the women today. Hey, everybody, I want it for just both our podcast audience and the women listening live inside the Sex After Breast Cancer group. As always, our contributing experts are here out of the goodness of their heart. And we want to remind you that you should never take their information as personal a consultation for your medical issues. You need to take this information that's provided to your own doctors who are aware of your situation. So just wanted to cover off on that, because we're talking about questions that are in our private Sex After Breast Cancer group. And Lyndsey is going to answer them to the best of her ability, but she's just giving you her opinion, and it's really for education and information only. Okay, so make sure you follow up with your providers. Okay,
that's right. There's always more to the story than we can type in a Facebook post, and those details, sometimes the details are really, really important. So we'll be talking about things from a high level educational perspective because we want to share information, but it's not specific to a person or to a specific treatment regimen.
Right. So that's great. So good. So thanks for offering to do this. And boy, every week, it's always so interesting to, when I say interesting, it's heartbreaking. It's, maddening. It's all kinds of emotions for me as I read the posts from our women, because there's a lot of heartbreak going on because we really, as a community, by and large, we're not advised that our sexual lives would be so deeply impacted by breast cancer treatment. But we are so grateful for our community of experts that are just really bringing us great information about how to get educated. It's really funny, Lyndsey. I don't know if I've shared this with you before, but for the women listening, ladies, we're adding about 400 to 450 girls a month in the group. It's,
that's amazing.
It's a pretty fast clip. And with that being said, so many of the new girls come in and their very first post says, oh my gosh, sex is so painful. What kind of lube do I need? And it's almost to a person that happens. It's never, could it be something else? It's always about, man, I've got the wrong lube. If I could just say this from the bottom of my heart, you may be suffering from a medical condition that needs attention. And that's why we're here to educate you. The lube comes second. The lube is to reduce friction during intercourse, okay? It is not to heal your body, and your body has been ravaged by treatment and a lack of estrogen and all kinds of other things. And so we want to make sure that you know how to repair your tissue and If you have a pelvic
Mm.
floor issue, if we need to get into that, we're going to talk about some of those things today, but I just want to let you know that let's heal your body first and lube is for fun later. So
Love it.
yeah,
So good.
so that's awesome. Okay, our first question, this gal says, hi ladies, I need help. After tamoxifen caused uterine issues, I had a total hysterectomy, putting me into surgical menopause. That is so not uncommon. I'm now on anastrozole. I also take Effexor to help with the side effects of depression and anxiety. And I have been on Effexor too for many years. I'm with you, girl. My libido has been 0 since then. That's pretty common, I think, with Effexor, right, Lyndsey?
Yes,
Seems like,
unfortunately.
yeah. And then she said, I can't afford Restella by Bonafide at the moment, and every other women's libido supplement I can take has maca in it. Maca should not be taken if you've had hormone positive breast cancer because it can stimulate estrogen. Help. So let's take that at a higher level. I guess I want to talk about a couple of things.
Yeah.
What other kinds of libido solutions are out there that can be explored that may be more affordable? And do you happen to know anything about maca and how that interacts with estrogen?
Yeah, so I think there's a lot to unpack here. The
Okay.
first that I think we should probably talk about are the effects of depression and anxiety medicines on libido and sexual function generally, arousal, orgasm, all the things, right? And if things that are important to think about are, when did these sexual problems start? Did they start when you started your Effexor? Did you start on your Effexor prior to the hysterectomy? Like what's the timing of everything? We don't have that information, but it's important for people to know that if they're on an antidepressant that is affecting their sexual function, that they can change. You can go to a different depression or anxiety medication that potentially has less side effects. You can add another medication, sometimes Wellbutrin, to your depression or anxiety regimen that can improve your sexual function. So I would start with taking a look at your SSRI regimen, sort of understanding the timing of that, and are there opportunities to improve upon that? Because sometimes we're banging our head against a wall and those neurotransmitters are not going to be firing no matter what we're going to be doing. Because when I teach the medical students about this, what happens is those older SSRIs like Effexor, they cover a lot of neurotransmitters, and we want something that's pinpointed so that the neurotransmitters that we need for sexual desire and for sexual function can still be working. So there are different categories, and sometimes we don't start on those because they're more expensive. But what can happen is that if you go back to your prescribing provider and you say, hey, Dr. Harper, I'm having really bad side effects, sexual side effects from this medication, then I can document that in your chart as a treatment failure. And then your insurance they might require a prior authorization, but what else is new? But they should pay for a different and newer category of depression or anxiety medication that has less sexual side effects. So that's really important for everybody to know, because so many millions of us are on depression or anxiety medication, particularly during and after cancer treatment. So if you're on an SSRI and you think that might have anything to do with your sexual dysfunction, definitely see your physician about it, because there's other routes to go or even added medicines.
That's
That's the
great
first
advice.
thing.
That's such great advice, because I didn't realize that too, that Effexor was one of the older ones. So,
well, it's one of the ones that can have sexual side effects. And honestly, every medicine works differently. So we can't say bad versus good. We can say higher risk versus not as high of a risk. But some people, are going to have a hit to sexual function on some drugs and not on others, and it'll be vice versa. So that's why there's not like an end all be all, like perfect depression medicine for sexual function, but there are other options that we should know about so that we can see what's right for us. Does that make sense?
Very good. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And then go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead.
So the second part to the question was, are there other things we can do for low libido? And literally I could spend the entire rest of our time telling you all the things we can do for low libido, but it's a great conversation to have, because So that's the number one sexual problem that women report. 38% of women, and that's general population. That's not just breast cancer patients. That's general population report low desire. And so, there's so many things that go into that. But the first thing to talk about in the cancer, survivor, thriver community is sexual pain, which is what you've already mentioned. If you're having sexual pain because of pelvic floor dysfunction, meaning your pelvic floor is really tight, or maybe your vagina has had some atrophy, which means it's gotten smaller, like it used to be able to accommodate a penis or fingers or whatever, but now it's because of the lack of estrogen and the lack of use, it's gotten smaller, so it hurts. If that's a cause of pain, if the decreased lubrication from lack of estrogen is causing pain, then those are things that all need to be addressed before we can work on sexual desire. Because when we think about it, and this doesn't occur to people sometimes, even though when you say it out loud, it's pretty obvious, but no one is going to want or have desire to have sex. It's like sticking your hand in the hot fire. Like, why would you desire? I don't desire to stick my hand in a hot fire because I know it's going to hurt. I'd rather do something else, like watch a new series on Netflix, or, make myself feel better with some chocolate. I certainly don't want to stick my hand in a fire. So if you're having sexual pain, literally more than one time, two times, if you get into that pain cycle, it's very important to seek help. Just like you were saying, Jan, you need to see your doctor. You need to see a pelvic floor physical therapist. It is a group effort, because what happens is, as that pain goes on, a lot of other things start to happen that are separate but additive to the pain, right? We get in a really negative cycle about sex and about intimacy and about ourselves and about our partners, and everything gets really much, much, much bigger than just the pain itself, right? So if we can get that pain addressed early and effectively, then we can avoid all of that fallout that for many women goes on for decades because of unaddressed sexual pain. So that's my first sort of like soapbox. You'll notice I have several of them.
Yeah, I'd like to just remind everybody, and I'll put this link in the description in the podcast as well, but in the Sex After Breast Cancer group too. Just this last week, we developed the Sex After Breast Cancer Toolbox, which is a 4-page PDF that has somewhat of a step-by-step process about moisturizing your vagina. If you need to use dilation, there's a discussion in there about using dilators. There is a discussion about lubes. There is a discussion about vaginal estrogen. Lots of different things in that 4-page document. So you can download it either in the Sex After Breast Cancer group or through the link that I put in the description. But I would really encourage you to do that, because we always have to think about, again, healing our body before pain. I just feel like what I have learned is that there are so many medical conditions that need to be addressed before we can have pleasurable sex again.
Yeah.
And so,
and there's no such thing as like forcing your way through it. Like, the more sex you have, it doesn't get better. It's going to get worse, because it hurts, and that pain is sending negative signals back to your brain about sex in general. So if sex hurts, stop having sex and go see your doctor. There's no point in forcing yourself through it. It's not going to get better without some intervention.
Lyndsey, my biggest complaint when I first had terrible pain with penetrative sex was that glass shards feeling. And so that is caused by what? By the decrease in estrogen?
Yes, that is caused by the decrease in estrogen. So, oh my gosh, I was just talking to my good friend. Her name is Carolyn Moyers, and she's great. She focuses on pain in pregnancy. And she had a great analogy, which was that the vagina prior to menopause, whether that's surgical, medical, or natural, is like a ruffle. It has ridges, and you can dip it in stuff and it'll hold up. But after menopause, or whether it's medical, surgical, natural, that tissue gets thin like a Lay's potato chip. There's no more ruffles. You can see straight through it. And if you try to dip it in anything, it's like, it's going to crack. And so we want ruffles, and ruffles have ridges. And so the way that we keep ruffles is with estrogen. And when we block it, all of a sudden, we're going to go to a Lay's potato chip and it's going to crumble under any sort of friction or pressure. And unfortunately, we can feel that, right? That's what
Mm.
happens during sex. And it feels like it's a Lay's potato chip. So what we really need to do is figure out what's the best, way to get that vagina back to its ridges. Our vaginas have ridges so that whenever they become aroused, they can open up to accommodate whatever is about to come in. And without that ability to, expand using the ridges and also have the elasticity and the lubrication that's provided by the estrogen. And the other piece there's lots of pieces to the puzzle, but another piece of the puzzle is that estrogen supports a healthy bacterial sort of environment in the vagina. So whenever we don't have estrogen, we're more prone to urinary tract infections, we're more prone to vaginal infections. And so estrogen does many amazing things for the vagina. When it's gone, it does not feel good during intercourse. And if that's the case, we need to evaluate the other options for whatever might be going on.
Right. So the lack of estrogen can obviously be addressed with vaginal estrogen, but many women and oncologists may be hesitant to prescribe that. And so hyaluronic acid options are available.
So one thing, Jan, I want to bring up, I see in the video or in the group that maybe the video has stopped.
Okay. Let me look. Okay. I'm just refreshing. So
okay.
We'll see how it goes. We're talking there. Okay.
Okay, good. Amazing. So yes, estrogen is the real deal, right? It's going to get us back to the state that we desire, that maybe we had before whatever type of menopause that we experienced. If for whatever reason, maybe your oncologist is not on board, maybe you don't ever, want to take hormones again, each patient gets to make their own decisions. And that's what's beautiful about the way that medicine is today, as long as each patient has adequate and correct information, right? That's the biggest piece of the puzzle, is we want everybody to know what the options are and what the risks and the benefits of those options are. So along those lines, hyaluronic acid is an alternative that is hormone free. And when many women use it, they find it to be adequate for sort of, their ability to have intercourse again. So I think it's a good option if your medical team is like, nope, we're not doing estrogen, or if you as an individual are uncomfortable with that idea. It's important also, though, to communicate that vaginal estrogen does not go systemically. So, in the latest data, it's not thought to change the risk, but everybody's sort of at a different level of comfort with that information. So if we're gonna, go ahead.
Dr. Lyndsey, you know what? Kelly Casperson and I did an interview. She's
I love
a urologist. Yeah, probably a friend of yours, I thought.
Yeah.
And you know what she said to me? And I actually got my calculator out and I thought that is such a good analogy. Okay, I am using vaginal estrogen 10 micrograms twice a week. So that's 20 micrograms a week, and it's ongoing. So 20 micrograms times 52 weeks is 1,040 micrograms, which is just above equivalent 1 milligram. Now, so she's saying all of those little tiny tablets you're taking all through the year, twice a week, are the equivalent of 1 milligram of estrogen, which is what is used in 1 pill of HRT, hormone replacement therapy. So it's you have to understand what a microdose it is. It is so small compared to what you may have had using HRT in the past or that kind of thing. So that microdose, the fact that it doesn't go systemically is really, I mean, what a miracle that is. So yeah.
Absolutely. And I think there's another way to have this conversation as well, which is to say, like, I have not had breast cancer. So I want to preface with that, because I don't, I can't say that I can fully understand the journey, but I can say that it would be a serious sort of decision point for me to be like, what is my quality of life after cancer? And what does that mean to me? Does it mean taking 1 milligram of estrogen per year? I think for me, I can't say for sure, because like I said, I haven't been in that situation. I would prefer, to have a healthy vagina, to have an elastic, lubricated vagina, and to have pleasurable sex. So I'm with you. But as we discussed kind of before we started talking about this, everybody's at, if somebody's provider is recommending against something, it's difficult to argue against that because you placed your trust in this person. They're in charge of caring for you. And so I think it's my job really to disseminate information rather than to say, you've got to do this right now. You know what I mean? But
Right,
I think that the
right.
way that you framed that is really helpful. I think it really does put that into context. And I'll tell Kelly that you're spreading the good word for her
Yeah,
because she'll be proud.
that was actually stunning to me because,
Yeah.
and it helped me make a decision. One of the reasons, friends, that I decided, again, and just as Dr. Lyndsey said just now, it was a quality of life issue, but I
Yeah.
also have, I think it's been 4 years ago that I was diagnosed with severe vaginal atrophy. And I recently was diagnosed with the prolapsed urethra. So in talking with my provider, vaginal estrogen addresses all of the things.
Yeah.
And so I can heal all those medical conditions with that little microdose of estrogen easily. And I'm willing to take that risk. It feels like from all my research that level
Yeah.
is not risky at all, but it's
Right.
everybody's individual decision. So yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, back to this question. Do you know anything about maca root?
Okay, so I looked
Curious.
at it after you sent it to me, and it has come up on the Rosy platform before because we really focus a lot on desire. And it's interesting. So there are some animal studies to suggest that it does increase that it may be hormonally reactive in the body. But I could not find, but that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. But off a quick literature search, couldn't find that to have been repeated in human studies. So I don't know that we can extrapolate one way or the other. I think the answer is there's not enough known. And so because of those animal studies, probably the oncologist is being conservative and suggesting that that's not a good option. And this is the trouble with supplements that are not FDA approved, is that we don't know. And that's not a great place to be as a physician or obviously as a patient, because a lot of these companies are marketing to us, telling us the good side of stuff, but honestly, it really hasn't probably been studied and in terms of what the risks are. And so I think whenever you're in a different situation as a cancer patient, you become a little more critical of things that are, kind of coming at you, whether it's a supplement or a product or whatever, and with good reason. And you really start to maybe look into, the data and what's known, what's not known a little bit more carefully than we might otherwise, because there are big implications sometimes. This is one of those where we don't know in my sort of quick search.
I'm just thinking about this question too, just about lack of libido. I don't know that I've talked with you about scream cream in the past, non-hormonal scream cream. Is that something that you like to prescribe, or are you, are you a fan?
I am. Yeah, I am a fan. And I usually would put a little testosterone in it, but here's the deal. There's lots of things going on in the vulva, right? It's like a really smart penis. It has estrogen receptors. It has testosterone receptors. It needs adequate blood flow. So just like when we think about a male erection, the female sort of clitoris, right? That you can see the clitoral head, but then the clitoral body, it goes all the way down into the labia. That becomes engorged and throbbing, right? And so if we have microvascular problems like diabetes, or if we've had, radiation to the pelvis, or we've lost estrogen and then those tissues have become smaller, that vascular engorgement is not going to be as effective, as intense, as, pleasurable perhaps. And so a scream cream is kind of like the kitchen sink. A lot of times it will have some medicine in it, like a Viagra, to bring some of that blood flow back to the vulva, just like it was designed to do in the penis and the erectile tissue. Sometimes it doesn't have to, right? And this is the trouble with scream cream, is that it's not FDA approved. So we're all just kind of making our own recipes, and some of them have this and some of them have this. There haven't been a lot of great studies. It's all anecdotal. But we do know that most of the individual ingredients have been studied, right? So it doesn't seem like there's a risk probably with the like nitrous oxide, like the sildenafil and those ingredients. The testosterone for breast cancer patients, unknown, right?
Mhm.
And then the other ingredients are likely safe because they're external. But I have had, I think this is the case for everything we talk about in sexual medicine. It works for some people, it doesn't work for other people. And the reason why is because there's more than one thing going on, right? Sometimes we've got some distraction or some sex negativity in our lives or some relationship issues. Sometimes we have some true physical medical problems. Sometimes we have some hormonal issues. So it's not ever A plus B equals C, but that's okay. That's fine. But it also means that there's not usually one silver bullet in sexual medicine, generally speaking. But that doesn't mean we can't try things and have open lines of communication and know what tools are in the toolbox.
Very cool. Okay, that's super helpful. Yeah, and just ladies, so you know, in that previously mentioned Sex After Breast Cancer toolkit, there are 2 recipes for screen cream that you can print that page off and take it to your provider and say,
I love
"Hey,
that.
can I have one of these?" One of them has testosterone, one of them doesn't have testosterone, so you've got kind of a poo-poo platter there. But I want to just say to you that your own provider may also have their own recipe that they prefer, and that's cool. But just in case they don't or aren't familiar with screen cream, we wanted to give you a couple of recipes to go by. So there you go. Okay.
That's
Okay.
awesome.
Yeah.
Y'all are gonna get these providers educated. We'll do it on the medical side. Y'all do it on the patient
Right.
side.
We're
We'll
working it,
meet you
girl.
there.
We're
Yeah.
working it. Yeah, we've got a bunch of handouts for the providers just to help them know kind of what we're peddling over here. So that's good. So,
I love
okay,
that.
here's another comment. Sex is no fun anymore and I don't get off. What will happen to my vagina if I stop having sex? What's the point of using lube? VM, what is VM? V Magic maybe? VM.
Maybe. I don't know.
And E-string. I'm tired of squirting and shoving stuff up my vagina for bad sex. We used to be so hot together. I want to cry.
Aw,
I know that's that
I want to
heartbreak that we
cry.
hear. I do too. I do too.
Yeah. So I'll answer the question that was asked, which is what will happen to my vagina if I quit having sex? And if there's no estrogen there and you quit having sex, it's going to get smaller, so more narrow. So pretend this is a premenopausal vagina. It's going to get more narrow and it's going to get shorter. Let me take a finger away. So more narrow and shorter, right? And that is a bummer because if you decide that you want to, try to go heads down on this again and give it a go, it's going to be painful. And so I would not encourage that. I would definitely encourage continued sort of intimacy, whether that includes penetration or not, it's completely up to you. But I do want you to know that it's not going to get better if you stop being sexually active with penetrative sex. It will most likely get worse. And so, I think that for this patient, and for people who are in the same situation, because obviously this is a common sentiment. I just want to throw everything up in the air and just say, forget about it. I would really, encourage maybe many things. And none of these are like straightforward things. None of these are silver bullet things. But if you're not enjoying sex anymore, and it sounds like to me that this has something to do with her orgasm, like I can't really tell, but that could definitely be because of lack of estrogen. That could definitely be because of lack of testosterone. That could definitely be because of decreased blood flow to the clitoris as a result of medical or surgical menopause. And so I would really encourage this person to go and visit with their provider and be really straightforward about what's going on. And if that person doesn't have the toolkit to address it, then I would encourage that person to find someone who does. Other people that can be helpful in this, on the team are a sex therapist or a sex coach, and or a pelvic floor physical therapist if pain is an issue. So I don't want you to give up. That's not how any of us have designed our lives, especially if we're in this group, right?
Right.
There's something that's distressing about what you're experiencing. And if that's the case, then you deserve to have help. You deserve to have community. You deserve to have resources. All of those are there for you. It sounds like you've been through a lot of them, which I can understand can get super duper frustrating. And sometimes we just need a break. And that may be the case. But I would encourage, if you're going to take a break, to just maybe, do a little dilation during
Hmm.
that time, and while you kind of regroup mentally, maybe come back to it when you feel kind of ready to try again, because it's not hopeless, but it does take a lot of energy having to advocate for ourselves so much, obviously.
Right. And dilators, can you explain what dilators are? Just for those
Yeah,
that don't know.
absolutely. There's
We're
so
always
many.
we're adding so
there
many new girls that they may not be familiar with dilation.
Totally. I mean, I have so many like props over here that I
Yeah.
should have with me. So I'm sorry that I don't have any. I'm like, I need my vulva puppet. I need my dilators. I need my clitoral model.
All of you
Um,
guys have vulva
so
puppets. I've
we
seen
do.
so
We're
many
we're
of
like a
them.
gang. Yeah, we're a gang. We all bought them from the same person too, who's a pretty cool lady.
Probably.
Yeah.
Somebody made a
Um,
living off of it.
yeah,
Oh,
she did. They're like $280 a piece, just by the way.
oh goodness.
Yes. Okay, so dilators. So dilators are a set of, they can actually come in multiple different ways, but the most common is that it's a set of, they can be silicone, they can be glass, they can be made of stainless steel. There's some sort of material that holds shape, and they start at the size of the pinky. And then they kind of go up to very large, like however large you kind of need them to be. And they're meant for women who have had a shortened or small vagina for some reason. So that could be, after menopause, if you don't use your vagina, like we talked about, it gets smaller and shorter. That could be after surgery, after a hysterectomy. When we take the cervix out and we sew the cuff back, which is the top of the vagina, sometimes the vagina is too short and you kind of need to lengthen it again. That could be, there's a few other times that you might need a dilator, but those are probably the most pertinent to this audience. So you can start out at the dilator size that's comfortable to you. So if you've had atrophy and your vagina is very small and, short again, you might want to start out with a tiny, tiny one, like the one of my pinky. And what happens is you just gently, with lube, gently put it in the vagina and just have it hang out there while you're laying down until, maybe we have a whole dilator protocol on the Rosy platform. I'm sure you'll have one too, Jan, but if you don't,
Mhm,
we can share ours. And
mhm.
then you take it out and then you gradually go up and then you leave the next one in. And then you take it out and then you leave the next one in. And you do this like physical therapy for the vagina a few times each week. And you go up until you are feeling a little bit uncomfortable. It shouldn't, I don't want anybody, and none of the physical therapists want anybody to be in pain. But unless we kind of get a little bit uncomfortable, obviously we're not going to be making any progress. There's another one that I like. It's more expensive, to be, very transparent, called the Millie. Have you heard of that, Jan?
I haven't.
So it's one that you put in, and it actually, you can turn it on for vibration.
Hmm.
And vibration is never bad in my experience. But the point of this vibration is that it confuses the nerves. Like when you get a shot, have you ever seen that thing? It was on Shark Tank. I got one for my kids. You put a little buzzy on your kid's arm, it confuses the nerves, and then they can't feel the same amount of pain as they
Right.
would with the shot than before the buzzy. So the dilator starts to vibrate, and then that confuses the nerves, and it actually, this one expands a little bit, so pretend my finger's expanding while
Interesting.
it's in the vagina. So you're not
Wow.
taking it out, putting it in, taking it out, putting it in,
Hmm.
and the buzz part of it is supposed to make it more comfortable. So that's a cool resource that patients like. But anyway, the point of that is to kind of keep what you've got, at least, or to try to work towards increased, whatever we want to call it, capacity, size, whatever, to, make sex more comfortable, to accommodate a particular partner. So that's really dilators in a nutshell. But it almost makes me want to talk about O-nut. Do you guys ever talk about O-nut?
No, I've heard of that, but I don't
Yeah.
understand that. Yeah, tell me.
It's amazing. So, okay, pretend this is a penis or something else, a dilator, or, maybe a sex toy, and you are a person who can only accommodate maybe half of that or maybe three quarters, but deep sex hurts. So this
Oh,
happens with endometriosis, but this also happens after menopause because sometimes the vagina is shorter. And so the O nut goes around the base of whatever we're using for penetration. It's silicone. It's not actually silicone, but it feels like silicone that goes around the base. It's very stretchy. It's pretty. The founder's amazing. And so it goes around the base and that protects whatever's penetrating, say it's a penis, from going in all the way to the vagina. So the partner who's penetrating feels more pleasure, but the partner who's,
oh,
if they have a vagina who's, having penis and vagina sex feels more protected because they know the entire, penis or whatever else isn't going to go in all the way. So it can help you feel more comfortable and experience less pain if you have pain with deep penetration.
well, I would believe that there is probably an article about the ONUT on Rosy that I will
Yeah,
be able to
absolutely.
republish here. Okay.
Yes,
I
yes,
will
yes, yes,
grab that then. So, and
yes.
the information will be again in the description. So that's awesome.
Perfect. Yeah, and
Okay.
I'll just put it in the comments too if you want me
Okay,
to.
great.
Yeah.
Here's another comment that says, I feel like I shouldn't be the one to make the first move here. I'm already self-conscious after the changes to my body. Married almost 26 years together for 31, known each other since high school. I don't know what to do. I for sure am not making the first move. It's been 18 months. So
Oh,
yeah, I know. Now, Lyndsey, I know that you're offering you have an offer for our community with
yeah,
Rosy. So I wonder if there are some tools on Rosy that might help.
totally. Okay, can you read between the lines? She doesn't want to make the first move because why?
She said she's self-conscious about her body.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, absolutely positively that makes a lot of sense. And I know from talking to a lot of women who have experienced, as Jan mentioned earlier, the ravages of cancer and its treatment, that this is like probably, I don't know, a woman that doesn't feel this way, right?
Mhm.
After going through all that. We definitely do, Jan, on the platform have a body image class that we recorded with a sex therapist for exactly this, where, it's not like, oh, I love my body, I hate my body, and then I'm going to like love it and think it's amazing. But it can get someone to a place of acceptance, of appreciation, of knowing and believing that they deserve pleasure no matter what they, think their body looks like. And it can be really a beautiful moment. If y'all have been together for so long, your partner probably doesn't want to initiate either because he or she, it said a he. I don't
It
want to
sounded like
assume.
a he, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, your partner doesn't want to make assumptions about your readiness, right? So, I mean, one way to handle it for that I have heard from some women, I'm just coming up with all of these amazing brands that I love. There's a brand called Anna Ono. Have you heard about that, Jan?
No.
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad we're doing this. Okay,
Okay,
Anna
good.
Anna Ono Intimates. I'm just putting all these in the comments.
Gotcha.
Um, so this is a brand that, and actually I know another brand too. This is a brand that makes lingerie specifically for women who have had breast cancer. And so
Oh,
they make
great.
like sexy stuff, right? And there you can put
Oh,
an insert in your bra and leave it on if you want to, or not if you don't want to. I know another one too that was started by, these founders are all awesome. I just want y'all to know because I know all of them personally, and I would just, I would love to support them in any way. So I'm
nice.
going to put this other one in there too. So the point being is that, there are two things that can happen. You can work on the relationship that you have with your new body and try to get that to a different place. But you can also use some, life hacks that these other people have come up with to try to help you feel better. Actually there's an influencer on Instagram. Her name is My Cancer Chic. Have you heard of her?
I haven't.
Anna Krollman is her name. And she's had breast cancer, I think in her 30s, maybe even late 20s. And she had implants afterwards and then got a tattoo because she had her nipples removed. She has like a really cool, not a nipple tattoo, but like like a cool tattoo on her breast. And it just helped her kind of reclaim that part of her body for herself. You know, she was like,
Hmm.
yeah, it doesn't look like a regular breast, but this is mine. And I like love what I've done with it. You know what I'm saying?
Nice.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I think there's some
There's ways to
opportunities to
empower
reframe.
yourself, I think, in that way.
Exactly.
Yeah, and
Exactly. And so,
we're actually in a couple of weeks also friends in the Sex After Breast Cancer group, and this will be a podcast as well. Breast cancer transformation coach Karen Delmeister is doing a body confidence roadmap for you.
oh, love
So
that.
I'm looking forward to that as well. So yeah, so make sure you tune in for that. That's
Totally. And then another thing that I would say, but maybe in this situation, is just you don't have to make the move with your partner. Could you potentially instead have a conversation with your partner to
hmm,
say, hey, I think I'm ready. Thanks for your patience. I think I'm ready. Here's some things that I feel comfortable with. Here's some things that I don't feel comfortable with. One of those is making the first move, but I want you to know that if you do, I will openly receive that happily. And I think there's sometimes, especially after there's been a bit of time that has passed, there's a lot that just goes unsaid. And then there's a lot of assumptions that are made. And one of my favorite sex therapists, Lori Mintz, says your partner cannot read your mind, right? I don't think that's a
mhm.
like really novel idea in therapy that a lot of us think that our partners can read our minds. But especially in this situation, your partner's probably been trying to keep you safe, keep you protected, doesn't want to hurt you, doesn't want to, make you do anything you don't
Sure.
want to. And they might need that green light. So you don't have to like make a move. You could maybe just say, hey, I'm open to you making a move and see where this goes.
What a good idea. No, that's great advice. That's beautiful. I love that. Yeah. So, friends, make sure you check out the comments in the Sex After Breast Cancer group, but those links will also be in the description. So thank you for that. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And here's our last question. Does anyone else feel broken and ugly? Oh, sweetheart, I want to just tell you, don't call yourself that. And you are not broken. We have a friend that makes ones. We talked about Kelly Casperson earlier.
Yeah.
If you're a podcast fan, then look for the You're Not Broken podcast. Kelly is a great urologist and sex educator, and we've also done podcasts with her. So just check on that. Okay, so this gal says, does anyone else feel broken and ugly? My husband and I had an amazing sex life until this damn cancer. I'm ER positive, so everything is broken. I'm dry and it's so unbelievably painful. I haven't found a lube that works. I don't want to hear there are other ways to be intimate, and there are other awful circumstances that play into it. I just miss sex and intimacy with my husband, and I'm only 40.
Yeah. I mean, I hear you.
Yeah, it's hard.
That is hard. And,
Mm.
you're definitely not alone, right? All you have to do is scroll through this group or any sort of safe place where women are allowed to have these conversations and know that you're not alone. And as Jan communicated, are definitely not broken. You are still you. And you have a lot of vivaciousness, a lot of love clearly in your heart, and a lot of intimacy ahead of you. I would, just counsel that it's a rough road. And because of the way that the medical system is set up, it still just makes me so mad that when men come in with prostate cancer, the very first conversation they have is about how to preserve their erections. And if not, what are the, 20,000 things that they can do that is covered by insurance and FDA approved and easily and readily available, right? When we get to the place where we recognize that when we take hormones away from women, that we are also wrecking their sexual function. So this is like the analogy would be is if every man who went in for prostate cancer surgery ended up with no erection, no sexual function anymore, right? Would that ever happen? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
And so when we can sort of raise that flag that that's what we're doing to women with breast cancer treatment, not to say that we're not happy to have breast cancer treatment. We are, obviously, but we have to have these conversations. Women have to know what's coming for us, and we have to have some alternatives and some resources that physicians know about and that are available to us and covered by insurance. I couldn't feel more passionately about it. But the fact that we don't talk about it leaves women feeling exactly like this because you think you're alone, you think that there's nothing to do, you think your doctor doesn't know how to talk to you about it. It's absolute it's a tragedy that this is happening, but you're unfortunately not the only one that it's happening to. And what I would want to just communicate is that there are people who care. There are women just like you who have moved on from the place that you're in and gotten better. And there are, some evidence-based things that we can do. And I know that Jan's favorite one would be some vaginal estrogen. But once again, we got to talk to the right team, got to make sure
Right.
it's the right decision for you.
Right. And certainly hyaluronic acid, again, for vaginal moisturizing is non-hormonal. So that
Right.
is an option for everybody. And so when you're saying that you're having pain and you haven't found the right lube, again, it's not about the lube, it's about your body. So we need to get your body healed first. And so I would really download the information from the Sex After Breast Cancer Toolbox in the group and just go through those documents. Please watch our previous Sex After Breast Cancer lives, just like the one that we're doing today. And all of those are cataloged inside the group under the guide section. And so you can just sit and watch them and get your own education. I would tell you, we are hearing so many success stories from the gals that do that. So if you are willing to invest the time to learn about your body and to learn the options that are available so that you can have really, really productive conversations with your doctors, that's really the best way to go. And then once you're educated, you can just really make great informed decisions about your health. And as Lyndsey brought up earlier, quality of life is one of those things that we don't typically talk about in the breast cancer world, but
Right.
we certainly should. And I just was, as you were talking to Lyndsey, I was thinking about Tracy Owens, one of our sexuality counselors on our team. And she said that every woman should walk into their oncology center and ask their oncologist, so who here in this building is in charge of women's sexual health?
I mean, I love that.
Every time, because we need to kind of make some noise about that they should have somebody on staff that's in charge of women's sexual health.
What a good idea.
I love that too. I really love that too. Yeah. Well, okay, so now it's gift time from Dr. Lyndsey Harper. Come on.
Amazing. Okay, so yes, for anybody in this community, I'm going to try to find it because I just sent it to make sure with Haley that it was still good. Okay, perfect. So anybody in the Sex After Breast Cancer community has a free 1-month silver membership to the Rosy platform. And so I didn't really talk about it a ton, but on Rosy, we have definitely personalized journeys for women who have had breast cancer. And so we really just want to, make sure that everything that we know, y'all know. And another thing that Haley made this month, which I loved, was a survivor's guide. And it actually has a ton of the brands that I recommended already. And it has codes for discounts. So I can also pop that in here as well. I just don't have the link right now on me, but so it has a discount to Anna Ono. It has a discount, I think, to Millie. And so, we just want to, I love that you said that Tracy said, who you're going to walk in and ask who's in charge of sexual health here. And that's really, part of our mission is telling healthcare providers, like, you've got to start asking about this stuff. But the problem is many of us don't have training. And so we're trying to give providers a place that they know is evidence-based, that they know is recommended. Rosy was the only platform, the only app that was recommended by the doctors at Cedars-Sinai for patients with sexual problems. We have data that we presented at several medical conferences, including ISWISH, that women who use Rosy experience improved sexual health and function. So, we're really proud of what we built. And more than that, I really want to see the world change when it comes to the resources that are available for women. So that's what we're all about.
So great. Well, thank you for your generosity in offering that
Yeah.
silver membership. So ladies, that link and information about how to claim that 1 month silver membership on Rosy, the Rosy app, will be in the description, and I will put it in the group as well. So I think you should really check it out. It is a marvel. It's funny. I get questions from women all the time about different things, and it's really interesting how often I go to the Rosy platform in order to get information about what's being
Well,
asked.
that's what we want.
No,
Thank
it's
you.
really, turning into a beautiful encyclopedia of information, all things sexual. So really appreciate
it.
all the work that goes into that. So that's awesome. Well, you are a doll. I know that it's, I don't know where your kids are right now, but it's
They're out here screaming for dinner.
Okay,
Yes.
good. Right. So time to go take care of those guys at home. Thanks for being you're off the clock, but still hanging out with us. So I appreciate that very
It's
much.
my pleasure.
So, yeah, no, we are so grateful for your generosity and spending your time with us today, Lyndsey. Thank you so much. Again, this is Dr. Lyndsey Harper from Rosy. If you go to meetrosy.com or go to your Play Store or the Apple Store, you see that logo in the video. That is the Rosy logo. So just look for the Rosy app. So again, and you can go to Meet Rosy if you need to see the website. Okay, meetrosy.com, and it's ROSY.
You got it.
Somebody asked me that, and I didn't even think about that it could be spelled different ways. But yeah,
I know. Yes,
yeah.
ROSY. You got
Right.
it.
Very good.
Thanks so much, Jan. Great to visit with you.
Always good to see you, my friend. Thank you so much, and looking forward to seeing you in a few weeks here too.
Sounds good. I'll see you in. Yes, I'll see you there.
Looking forward to that. Okay, that's great.
Okay.
Well, guys, this is Jan James again for Hope After Breast Cancer and Sex After Breast Cancer. We'll see you next time. Take care. Good night. Girlfriend, thank you so much for listening to our podcast. I hope you found some nuggets to encourage you and give you hope. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast. You never want to miss an episode, and we'd love to know how we're doing, so please be sure to leave us a review. Until next time, this is Jan James encouraging you to remember there is hope after breast cancer. See you next time.